Good morning. If you're new to the channel, my name is Giga and I like to explore art and different things. And a couple weeks ago, I saw the news of a Botticelli painting that was going up for auction. It was like 550 years old. It was the highest expected price ever set. And it was this painting of a young man holding a roundel, which I don't know what a roundel is. And I looked at that and I was like, I can paint that. That is not what I thought, but for the sake of the video, let's pretend that's what I thought. And so we're gonna try and paint something like it. But I don't know what that man is, I don't know what the roundel is, so I'm gonna adapt it a little bit and I'm gonna paint my brother, because his birthday is in a week. And I'm gonna paint something that my brother loves, which is photography and videography. And so I'm gonna paint him holding his camera. Late last night, I already did the sketch on the canvas. And today we're gonna start painting. But first, let me finish the bread I was making for breakfast, and then we start painting. Let's paint. I usually divide my painting into zones or areas and paint them one at a time, generally back to front. So here I started with the background, which is exactly the same as the original painting, so I was just trying to color match as best as I possibly can. Then I noticed how intense the white was and that I had forgotten to stain the canvas. And so I stained it with a little wash of a neutral gray, transparent enough so I can still see the sketch, but not confuse my perception of the different colors. Also, make sure to take advantage of everything you can. In this case, an example was using my masking tape to keep the borders between the colors very straight and sharp. The original Botticelli painting was painted using tempera, which I didn't even know was a thing until I researched this painting. And tempera is, according to Wikipedia, and I'm quoting, a permanent, fast-drying painting medium consisting of colored pigments mixed with a water-soluble binder medium, usually glutinous materials such as egg yolk. And apparently egg tempera, as it was also called, was the primary method of painting until after the 1500s, when it was superseded by the invention of oil painting. Since I've never painted with oil, and I don't even have the paint or the mediums to try it, feel free to give me or send me some for Christmas. I painted this using my acrylics, which is the medium I'm more accustomed to. I'll be walking you through my process, but since I've only been painting for the last 7 months, I know, right? So long. You should take everything I say with a little bit of a grain of salt, and if you know some better way of doing something that I'm doing, please do put it in the comments because I would love to learn. Before I start painting the subject, my brother, I go over the sketch lines with a dark color so I don't lose them immediately when I add the first layer of colors and values. Since we'll be applying a few layers of colors, we're going to end up covering those lines easily by the end of the painting. And here we can see a little bit of the bane of my existence, mixing color. I'm still super inefficient when trying to mix and match certain colors. I'm a lot better than I was when I started, but I'm still super far away from where I'd like to be. To the point where I sometimes feel inertia to start painting because I know it's going to be such an effort and process to get the colors I need. But here we go. Second zone, the skin. When I finally mix some colors that I'm happy with, I do some swatches on a separate piece of paper so I have a reference that's easier to come back to and compare. I start applying color trying to take into account the value zones, if it's direct light, halftones, core or occlusion shadows. Oh, and by the way, I'm doing all of this with a reference photo. Before I started this painting, I got some reference pics of my brother with a similar light source from the original painting and made a quick Photoshop montage of what I wanted the painting to look like. From the face, we move to the hands, since they're in the same zone and use the same colors. Here, we're still just trying to get the values somewhat correct. We will always add more layers so we can worry about perfecting the gradients and the edges later. When adding the second layer to the face, I thought the shadows were too dark, so I made everything lighter. A little too much. Sometimes you just gotta trust the process, because colors look super different depending on what's around them, if they're against a white or lighter background or if they're against a darker background. And in this case, since we're still missing the darkest parts of the face, I made the mistake of making everything a little too light. I eventually convinced myself that it did need to be darker, and that it would look good once the other dark elements like the eyebrows, the beard, and the clothes were added to the piece, and I painted everything darker again. I'm slowly learning to trust the process, but something I need to try and do is do a first pass over all of the different zones, so then at least the contrast doesn't trick me as much. From here, the process just keeps repeating a little bit. We keep adding more layers, now focusing on shaping the face, making the gradient smooth, and keeping some hard edges where they need to be. Eventually, we get to painting the lips and the eyes. A mistake I made in the beginning when I started painting was always making the eyes a lot brighter than they actually are in the reference. Since we know the white of the eyes is white, I don't know what that place is called. We tend to use that information, and despite whatever the lighting situation is in the reference and what we are trying to paint, we just default to making them white, which is most often not the case, and it wasn't the case in this scenario. When I'm happy enough with the main focus of the piece, which in this case is the face, I move on to some other elements. Here I move to the hat, since it's a dark element that will help place the rest of the colors of the face. And after that, the facial hair. Eyebrows especially make the face completely different. While painting the camera, the most challenging part was making sure the perspective made sense. The lens is a bunch of concentric circles which, since we're not looking at them straight on, turn into ovals with different heights and widths. Another interesting thing is that this camera is made of metal, so I get to paint the reflections and the highlights a little different. I tend to work on things that are close together simultaneously. Since I still need to work on my brush control, sometimes I paint over things that I shouldn't, and I try to do it while I still have the other colors mixed. So in this case, I'm painting the hands while I still have the colors for the camera ready in case I go over. And this way I can switch between the two and make sure the edges are exactly what I want them to be. Then adding the nails feels so good. Hands look so weird without them. And then we go back to the face, just adding a few more details. Usually, I save the little highlights like in the eyes to the end of the piece since they're so satisfying. But waking up every day and looking at my brother's face with dead eyes was freaking me out, so I decided to add them now. And it always amazes me how much of a difference they make. And talking about waking up, I think it's always a good idea to take breaks while painting, because once you step away and come back with fresh eyes, you see things that you previously missed. For example, after not painting for a couple days, I came back and looked at the painting and saw that my brother's lips were way too cold. It looked like he was freezing. So I went back and painted them again using some warmer tones. And with that, the only major thing we were missing was the clothes. I start with a little white color and then we move to the actual shirt. Similarly to the face, I start with the first pass just blocking out the major values, and in the next layers try to nail down the shape and the gradients. finally, I focused on smaller details like the buttons and little small highlights here and there. The only thing missing now is to paint the table, which I left to the end since it was in the foreground. So we get our masking tape out and get to it. I finish off with some last minute details, edge adjustment and cleaning some lines, add a little signature, and voila! And that's the end of a beautiful painting, of a beautiful day, and of a beautiful video, hopefully, depending on how I edit this. But yeah, I hope you liked it. I'm super happy with how this came out. I think it's my best work yet. I'm sure my brother's gonna be excited about it. So next time you see it, it's gonna be probably on the background of one of his videos, on his room, on his studio maybe. We'll see. But yeah, hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye! Oh, maybe click on one of those things that are gonna show up here, or here, one of the other videos, or maybe here to subscribe. Yeah, do those things. Love you, bye! Ooh, my arm's tired.